Your dog is asleep at the foot of your bed, or on your pillow, or taking up 3/4 of the sofa while you sit in the remaining quarter and pretend this is fine. That animal descended from wolves, actual wolves, the kind that, between 20,000 and 40,000 years ago, were hunting the same prey as your ancestors and were considerably better at it. Here's the question nobody asks. Not how we domesticated dogs, but what happened to the humans who didn't. There were two kinds of humans in the Ice Age: the ones who ended up in an alliance with wolves and the ones who didn't. Only one of those groups is still here. The story of why is not about loyalty or cuteness. It is a story about specific, measurable, lethal gaps in your ancestors' defenses and the one thing that closed them. To understand what life without dogs actually meant, you have to understand what the Ice Age night actually was. No reliable walls, no artificial light, no warning system. You were a medium-sized primate with average hearing, almost no sense of smell, and night vision so poor that when the fire burned low, you were effectively blind. In that darkness, cave lions, cave hyenas, and cave bears were moving every major predator of Ice Age Europe, active at exactly the hours when your senses were worst. The night was not uncomfortable. It was the most dangerous 6 to 8 hours in every single day. Every human who made it to morning had survived it. Without dogs, the only warning system you had was whoever happened to still be awake. Smell, hearing, night vision. Dogs had all three at levels that make human equivalents look like a rough draft. A dog's sense of smell is between 10,000 and 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's. Their hearing detects frequencies we cannot register. An approaching predator in the dark made no sound a sleeping human could detect, no smell a human could register. It was invisible to every human sense. To a dog in the same camp, it announced itself from 300 feet away. The dog woke up, the camp woke up, the predator either left or faced a group that was ready. Do that 10,000 nights in a row and the arithmetic changes permanently. Not dramatically just one or two fewer casualties every few weeks, but across centuries. That difference compounds. A group that stops losing people to predators in the dark grows faster, accumulates more knowledge, builds more culture. The group that doesn't persist. Which means every human institution that has ever existed owes some debt to the fact that a dog once heard something in the dark that a human couldn't. The night was only half of it. The other half was what the Ice Age actually offered to eat. A mammoth is 4 tons of muscle, tusk, and the kind of temper you develop when you are 4 tons of muscle and tusk. A human with a spear attacking one alone has very poor odds and significant life expectancy concerns. Humans and large dogs working together had something that looked like an actual strategy. Dogs tracked prey by scent across terrain no human eye could read, then surrounded it and held it in place while hunters moved in. Neither species could achieve the result alone. Archaeological sites across Ice Age Europe contain the bones of dozens, sometimes over 100 individual mammoths in one location, kill after kill across thousands of years. The weapons available to humans at the time cannot fully explain this scale. The dogs can. The goat came later and gave us milk. The horse came later and gave us speed. The dog came first and gave us a fighting chance against animals that outweighed us by a factor of 30. Priorities were apparently clear. But here is the part most people never hear. Dogs did not just learn to live near humans. They evolved, at a biological level, specifically to understand us. Point at something across a room. Your dog looks at the object, not your hand, not your finger. A chimpanzee, our closest genetic relative, looks at the finger. Harvard researchers documented this in dogs, including puppies with no training. They understand the pointing gesture spontaneously, without practice. This is not learned. It is biological. Dogs evolved the cognitive architecture to read human intent during thousands of years of proximity. And then there is the finding published in Science in 2015 by Nagasawa and colleagues. When a dog makes eye contact with you, both of you experience a surge in oxytocin, the same bonding hormone released between a parent and an infant. Hand-raised wolves do not produce this response. It is unique to domesticated dogs. They evolved it. The dog did not learn to bond with us. It evolved bonding into its biology. which is either the most sophisticated long game strategy in evolutionary history or the most committed emotional manipulation ever deployed by any species, possibly both. The oldest fossil we can clearly identify as a domesticated dog was found at Bonn Oberkassel, Germany, approximately 14,000 years ago. It was buried with two humans. Not left at camp, buried, with care. Researchers found the dog had been severely ill for weeks before death, too sick to hunt or guard, and had been kept alive and tended during that illness. Ancient humans 14,000 years ago were nursing a sick dog back to health. That is not the behavior of people who see an animal as a tool. That is the behavior of people who have lost something they cannot replace. 14,000 years ago, someone in Germany buried their dog because they could not bear to leave it. You let yours take up 3/4 of the sofa. Some feelings are older than we realize. The Neanderthals were bigger, stronger, had been in Europe 200,000 years longer, and had fire and tools and accumulated knowledge. They domesticated nothing, not one animal. We arrived with a cross-species alliance with a predator. 40,000 years later, the Neanderthals are gone and we are not. Life without dogs was not just harder. It was specifically measurably more lethal, in the dark, on the hunt, against everything that had millions of years of evolutionary advantage over human senses. The groups that had dogs closed those gaps. The groups that didn't live with them open every night until it killed them. Every animal we domesticated gave us something physical. The goat gave milk. The cow gave labor. The horse gave speed. The dog gave something no other animal has given before or since. It rewired itself to understand us. It is the only animal that evolved cognitive architecture specifically oriented toward human communication and emotion. The only animal whose eye contact with a human triggers a mutual oxytocin response. It did this not because we bred it for the trait, but because thousands of years of living alongside us selected for it. The dog chose this in the only sense evolution can choose anything. Back to the dog at the foot of your bed. That animal is not a tamed wolf. It is the result of 40,000 years of co-evolution, two species reshaping each other through proximity and need. Your dog knows your emotional state before you've consciously registered it yourself. It reads your face, your posture, the chemistry of your sweat. It evolved all of these abilities in the Ice Age dark, keeping watch over people who couldn't keep watch over themselves. The animal at the foot of your bed is still, in every biological sense, doing that job. You just don't need it to anymore. It does it anyway. You let it take up 3/4 of the sofa. It has earned a lot more than that. 40,000 years ago, a wolf moved toward a human camp instead of away from it. It stayed. It ate what was left. Its offspring stayed a little closer. Across thousands of generations of that loop, something came into existence that had never existed before. Not a tamed wolf, something new, an animal that evolved specifically to understand another species, that looks at your face to know how you feel. That stays when everything in its evolutionary heritage would tell it to leave. The prehistoric humans who lived without that were not simply less comfortable. They were navigating Ice Age darkness, apex predators, and competing hominids with every gap in their senses permanently open every night, until it killed them. Your dog didn't descend from wolves. Your dog is what happened when a wolf decided you were worth staying for.